Hey guys, I hope you loved episode 51 with Beth Rockert. This is just a little bit more of our conversation, kind of our bonus content. So enjoy. Tell me more about this quiet on the mat, because I struggle with this. Did it take you a while to get quiet on the mat? Because I think my mind's still too busy, because I think I'm still worried about the people around me, worried about if I can do what they're doing, worried about getting too sweaty, feeling nauseous. Listen. And so I don't sometimes feel like I can drop into that, what everyone keeps telling me I should be feeling, which is this connection with myself. This, I haven't gotten there. What do you think?
So first of all, let go of the should have. That's the biggest lie we tell ourselves is the should haves.
And we tell it. And you can tell me right now, no, get rid of the should haves. I need steps for that or something. Because I can say that and I'll be like, nope, I'm going to walk in there. I'm not going to care who's there. I'm not going to care. If I need to sit down for a minute, I'm going to sit down for a minute. But I can't, then I can't. Because sometimes I'll be and I'll be sweating. Like I've done a hot yoga class before where like, I'm sweating before it starts. And I'm like, this doesn't feel fun.
Curiosity. Being into it with curiosity, I think is, and at that point in my life, I was coming out of a divorce. I was going through, I'm dealing with an injury but I had made a decision to change.
Yep.
Like there was this mental switch that happened that said life is going to be different. And so I moved into it with a curiosity, like an exploration. It was hard for me to get quiet on the mat. The first time I laid in Shavasana, I was like, what am I supposed to be doing?
Right.
How long is it going to be? Am I going to make noises? What if I cough?
Yeah.
What if I sneeze? What is the person next to me doing? Right. But it's a practice. Yoga is a practice, right? And so it's the practice of catching yourself every time the mind starts to wander. And when you realize the mind's wandering off, or when you realize that your monkey mind is what we call it, when you got the monkey mind going on, you can stop yourself and then come back to the breath. Where in the body are you feeling the breath? Maybe it's the belly expanding and contracting. Maybe it's the shoulders lifting and lowering. Maybe it's the heart raising and lowering, or, expanding and contracting. And then just focus on the breath.
Logistically, if you're in the middle of a flow, okay, up and you're down and you're flowing around and you just feel this disconnect and your mind's too busy, is it against the rule? There's no rules. I know this, but is it against the rules to say, I got to just sit down and breathe for a minute?
No.
I'll get back into this in a sec. Do people do that often? Because I always worry about if I do it, like
the most advanced yogi is not the person who can stand on their head or reach around and grab their foot. It's the yogi that knows I need to pause.
What I need. Okay.
And sit down, and who's in tune with their body and who can say, I'm just going to sit here and I'm going to meet them in the next pose. I'm going to meet them in the next flow.
Okay.
Right?
I like that. That sounds like a good plan. Okay. All right. Well, and we don't have to go off of yoga. That's really just my own personal question, but I know other people are probably thinking the same thing. Yeah. Like, okay, what do I do? If I need to connect with myself, how do I do it with a group full of other people and not feel subconscious,
when you step on that mat, it's you and your mat.
Yeah.
And the teacher is your guide, right?
Yeah.
And if your body is telling you to take a pause, it's time to take a pause, and it's okay. It's okay. But there are times you're going to step on the mat and you're going to be like, today I got this.
No, I'm going to do every flow, do everything.
That's right. And you know what? And if she tells me that I'm going to, try a handstand or do a couple of bunny hops and maybe I'll try it today. I'm going to try it today.
Yeah.
But then there are other days that you're like, you know what? I need to skip this one.
Yeah.
And it's okay.
Yeah. Okay.
It's you and your mat.
Okay. So just background, you guys. I remember Beth from high school, junior high and high school. Okay. We went to the same junior and high school. And I will say, Beth, one of my core memories of you is that you were very Christian-y religion.
Yeah.
Okay. And I don't even know where that core memory comes from, but there's we can all go back in time and remember the group of kids that were like that group. I don't want to say goody, but you almost help them at a higher level because you're like, oh yeah, her dad's a pastor. She's super religious. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I don't even mean that in a bad way. That's just one of my core memories. Yeah. So you really did. I mean, you were very in your faith is what I remember.
Yeah.
And
so funny story, backstory. My husband and I, Mike and I knew each other in high school. When I was a freshman, his locker was 4 down from mine.
Okay. Yeah.
We dated then.
Okay. In high school. Okay.
Yeah. But you know Mike, he's a musician. He's a rocker. He came to my house, and my dad walked in and saw him in his leather jacket and long hair and kicked him out.
I can see that.
Totally. Get out. You out. Those were the only two words
Because
he
I
ever said to
remember
me.
Mike in high school up on stage rocking out. Like
Yeah.
they
with
would
his
play
long
sets
hair and his rose
at our,
earring.
at our pep rallies and stuff.
Right.
Yeah, no, and if you could envision Guns N' Roses rocker, this was Mike.
This was Mike.
Okay.
And so he comes to my house that way. My dad comes home from class and work, and he took one look at Mike and said, "You get out." And those were the only words he ever said to my husband. I do want you to know now that I truly believe he's my dad's favorite son-in-law at this point.
See, things change, but at the time,
Right.
it was a no. Okay,
Right.
so you went your separate ways. You both got married, had children.
had
You led
children,
separate adult lives.
Yeah.
And then when did the reconnect happen there?
So it was actually it was shortly after. I don't think my divorce was totally final. It was like a month before my divorce was final.
Paperwork was not quite done.
Not quite done, right? But my daughters and I were having a garage sale. Our plan was, it was the summer between their junior and senior year.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were kind of consolidating everything. The plan was to move to Florida. And it's a garage sale. My daughter comes in and I'm inside. She's like, "Hey, Mom, Colton's dad's outside." I'm like, "Okay, well, tell him I'll be out in just a minute."
Yeah.
And so I walked out, and we, as always, whenever we hadn't seen each other in forever, we'd be like, "Hey, how you doing? What's up?" Whatever.
Yeah, you're catching up.
And then, that summer we started spending some time together. The interesting thing, has been amazing is my parents have been amazing through this journey.
I was wondering how your dad thinks. What your dad's thinking about all this?
So our yoga studio opened a little over a month ago. So we haven't been open very long. And my dad is physically not well. He can't drive on his own.
Yeah.
And so we had made a plan that we're going to come get you. The open house was from like 1 to 4. And I'm like, we're going to come get you at 3. We're going to bring you over so you can hang out and see the finished space and all of that. And that was the plan.
Yeah.
At like 1:45, my dad walks in the door. I'm like, he's drenched. I'm like, "Where did you come from, Dad?" He's like, I took the bus.
Oh.
I was like, "Dad, I told you we were going to come get you at 3. He said, "I didn't want to miss it. I wanted to make sure I got here. I wanted to be there."
Oh, that's precious.
So their support has been so beautiful in all of this. And I think for my parents, for them, it was, they see a different side of me. They see someone who's more confident. They see someone who's, my faith hasn't wavered.
No.
My faith in the divine hasn't wavered. It's very different, but it hasn't changed. Right. They see that now. I walk through life knowing that the universe has good intentions. The divine has good intentions in freedom.
And no.
There's peace and there's grief. One of the things I've learned as I get older is the life experiences that we walk through is that there's room in your life for both opposite emotions, right? So for instance, there was a couple of years back that one of my daughters was going through a divorce. My other daughter had her house burned down. She hadn't even made her first mortgage payment a month after they bought it. So you can imagine the joy of going from signing the mortgage on your first house, moving in, and then losing everything. Within a 4-week time. And and then shortly after that, my father-in-law passed away, and there was a lot of grief.
There's a lot going on all at once.
There was so much grief, but at the same time, we were like, there's these joyous things going on. We had a son getting married. We had grandchildren who were, starting sports and all of these other joyful events. And so I remember many conversations with Mike, as we lay down to bed, that how interesting it is to be holding on to and being present with both the grief and the joy. And and that's something that, I think as a younger person, I had no idea how to hold space for both emotions at the same time. So a couple of interesting stories. I don't know if you've ever watched the Goop Lab. Do you ever watch that on Netflix?
No.
Okay. So Gwyneth Paltrow does this.
These
Goop Lab things. And so I binge watched that one weekend when I was sick. And she had this episode where this couple, they're doing a therapy session, and they do this interesting session where there's other people you don't know, but they place them in the room and you assign them sort of a person in your life. Like,
Okay.
So she's like, they were outdoors in this particular example, but she's placing these people around and they're different. They represent different people in her life. And then the therapist hands her a backpack, and that backpack represents the things weighing you down, the trauma, the things that you struggle with that you're holding on to. And she said, this is not yours.
That's not yours to carry.
Give it to who it belongs to. Give yourself permission to give this back to who it belongs to. And so she, through this therapy session she did. So I'm in this meditation. I go to this meditation circle, and I'm in this meditation. And I have this vision of myself in my early 20s, I think.
Yeah.
Was like this vision that I had. And I was in this garden. My grandpa used to be this caretaker for a historical community in Southern Indiana. And so there's all these different historical landmarks and inside this community, there's like a little garden. And in the back of the garden, there's a gate. And then you go on this gate and it's just this open place.
Yeah.
And there's these beautiful trees. And it's one of my favorite places to go to when I meditate. But when I was young, in this tree, there used to be like a swing that hung from the tree. And when I would go to work with my grandpa, because he would take me sometimes, he would take me there and we would swing. So in this vision, I'm in my early 20s and I'm in this garden and I go to this swing and I meet ancestral females in my life.
Ooh, okay.
And then my child me shows up with a backpack. And she hands it to me and she says, this isn't yours. The not good enough is not yours. Give it to who it belongs to.
Oh, and then did you distribute it?
And I had this beautiful vision of all of these women, ancestors, dressed in white, surrounding me. And this little child me takes me by the hand and hands me the backpack. And she walks me to a specific person and says, this is who it belongs to. It was someone I never met in my ancestral lineage.
Like ancestors,
Right.
not just grandma, but further
back.
Yeah.
But I handed it to this woman and there was this beautiful embrace. And it was one of the first times I'd ever had a vision that clear.
Yes.
But it was so poignant and so touching. But it was also in that QHHT session with Amy where Hawk appeared that I got the affirmation that it was time to open the studio.
Yeah.
And, so that was 2020. We didn't open till now. So it's been a journey.
It's been a journey. It's been a process.
It was in that session, I was like, am I doing this alone or will I have a partner? And it became very clear I would have a partner. But interestingly enough, even though Gina and I have spent years in the yoga circle teaching and sometimes teaching at the same studio, we weren't close. We didn't know each other very well. It was just like, oh, hey, how you doing? Whatever.
Yeah, just you both
we'd
can
sub
do
for
the
each
same
other
thing.
occasionally, whatever.
Yeah.
There was no real connection. And then shortly after that, so that was late 2020. So it was probably a year and a half later, she and I got connected and we just clicked.
Yeah.
And we became close.
It's just the right timing.
The dream was born.
And so,
Yeah.
All right. So you two opened the Omwell Collective.
Yep.
Where'd you come up with the name? What's it mean to you?
So, one of our dreams is to create a community, a collective of people who have a variety of healing modalities to offer.
Okay.
Right? So whether it's Reiki or sound healing or massage or mental health therapy or the idea of this holistic wellness approach.
Yep.
And so it was that's where the collective came from. Like this collective of people who want to approach wellness in a more holistic way. In a more holistic way. And then, Om is the sound of the universe.
Yes.
Right. It's the sound of the universe. It's the vibration of consciousness. And so in yoga, you often Om, like in a more spiritual yoga class.
Yes.
So there's lots of different styles of yoga. Ours is much more spiritual. Much more. And so, Om was, for both of us, meant a lot. The Om symbol, the Om, the sound, just the meaning behind the Om. And then Omwell is just a play on wellness,
I'm
right?
well.
Omwell.
Oh, well.
You know?
Oh, well. Oh, well. Yeah, I like it.
So
So would you say what separates your studio, or what's made it more original for you than what already exists? Because listen, they're opening up everywhere, man.
They are. They're popping up. And so here's the thing.
I say it's the new Starbucks, these yoga studios. But
they are.
So, and which is great.
Right.
But I always feel like, all right, what's different though about this one?
What's
I love when
different?
something's a little bit different.
Yeah. And what I want to say, like, I have had the honor of being in the yoga community for a lot of years before we did this. And every yoga studio that I've attended in the area has something very unique and very special. One of our dreams long term is that the yoga studios will have more of a partnership where, like, hey, let's have a teacher training and let's all do it at the studio one time.
Less competitive vibe.
Right. A much less competitive vibe. That might take some time, and it's okay. And the yoga community has been very welcoming to me.
Yeah.
And so I'm very grateful for that. And I could tell you every yoga studio in the area, what I love unique about that studio. Every one of them is beautiful. And I've learned something from everyone.
Yeah.
What I feel like makes ours a bit unique is the fact that we don't want the competitiveness. We want, and not that the other studios do. I want to be clear about that. We want it to be a community. We want it to be a family. Also, we don't want it to just be yoga. We recently started a Pilates teacher, right?
Okay.
And we want it to have other modalities. You know, we have someone there that does body work now, and we have one class that's a Reiki Restore class. So there's Reiki going on.
Other things going on there.
Sound healing, a little bit of sound healing going on. And long term, our goal is to have multiple spaces, and each space having a very unique offering, whether that's a mental health therapist in one of the rooms and
different things
Reiki
going
Restore person in another room. And, you know, but we also, I would say, bring in much more of the spirituality piece of it than you'll see in other yoga studios in the area.
Okay. So during a yoga session with you guys, you're going to add more of those sounds, maybe more of that vibe, or how is it more spiritual? So like, you're
logistically, you're most likely going to om at the end of our class. Okay. And there are lots of studios that don't do that. It's just not their vibe.
Yeah.
So you're going to om.
Okay. You're going to om, everybody.
You're going to om in our class.
You're going to om it up.
And it's fun. And you know what's great? Like,
it is hard to make noises around other people.
It is.
It's just, even sometimes the breathing exercises, when you really need to breathe loud and release, a lot of people, you can feel in the room, people are holding back, or I can feel the vibe because it is a little bit, I don't know, uncomfortable because we're so trained to care about what others think.
Right.
Yeah.
Also, another thing that you'll experience in our studios, we keep the bowls at the studio, the sound healing bowls.
Yeah.
So we have Tibetan and we have crystal bowls. We have a drum. We have a gong, and so we'll incorporate those in class
into the set. Okay.
Also, you're going to incorporate. I don't know if you know someone like Sean Korn. She's a yoga guru. She's one of the leading in the nation. She does a lot of training. She does a lot of stuff. She wrote a book called Evolution of the Soul, which is amazing.
Okay.
Or Revolution of the Soul. I'm sorry, not Evolution. But she's amazing. But in her classes, she really brings in the philosophy of yoga.
Okay.
And so like talking about the yamas and the niyamas, talking about the koshas and the doshas. And so I'm not at all comparing myself to Sean Korn because she's amazing, right? But I will say you'll get a little bit of that. Right now I'm working, one of my Wednesday night class is doing a 7-week chakra series. And in those chakra classes, we're going to be moving. We're going to have some sound.
So a little bit more about like a Ayurveda or, type vibe, like the Vedas, like all of this stuff too.
Yeah, I am not an Ayurveda practitioner, but we're gonna bring in like all of the chakras. I'll give a recipe out at the end of the class that
goes with that
chakra, and I'll have an essential oil blend for that chakra. And so we're bringing in sort of more that. It's not just about the movement.
Yeah, a holistic kind of approach to the whole thing. It's not just about
the movement. And so, so we're loving it. And we have chair yoga classes. There's not a lot of places around that have that. And we're offering Pilates. And And so been a beautiful unfolding. It's been.
You got anybody going to come hit up the old Kundalini or something really different?
Oh my gosh, I would love that.
If you could, I know.
Any Kundalini teachers in the area, please let me know.
Kundalini yoga, the yin. There's so many different ones I've been learning about. You have a yin now. Okay, I have to try out the yin. Yeah, because there's so many yogas I hadn't even heard of before. And I'm like, oh, that sounds cool. Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah. We're also doing other kind of interesting things like, a little bit of my partner, Gina, is also very crafty. So she's the handcrafted flow. So she does.
That's her
dream catcher workshop. Yeah. She did one last night. Then we have the flower arranging class coming up. So we're doing some other
fun things.
Things. Like we really would love it to be a space of community. And our Wednesday night class is free to the community. So one of the things that she and I love to do is we love to give back. And for a long time, I did a free class in my backyard on the river in the summer. I've done that for 2 or 3 years. And so now we're bringing that to the studio. Yeah. So Wednesday nights
make it accessible to everyone.
Make it accessible. Yeah. We don't feel like money should be a reason that someone can't come in and do the movement.
Come and experience yoga.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is nice to come experience it too, to see if it's something you really do want to invest your time and your money into.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Because it's tricky right now.
It is tricky.
Things aren't great. It's like, am I going to go to yoga or buy eggs? No.
Right.
So, decisions are being made these days. So we got to,
so
it's nice to try something out first. Yeah.
And trying to keep it affordable.
Yeah.
And trying to just create a little space.
Yeah. Okay.
That'd be good. Music has always been a big thing for me. Like for my whole life. I always laugh that people would be very confused if they looked at my playlists because they would not understand why Amazing Grace and Mercy Me are on the same track as Trevor Hall or
same. Mine's all a mix of all kinds of
Ozzy
stuff.
Osbourne. Like it's like it's like there's
same. One minute of my playlist were on I Can Only Imagine, and then the next minute, I like big butts. Like
exactly. Like I'm listening to Crazy Train. I'm listening to Crazy Train, and the next song. And it's funny that you bring up Mercy Me. One of my favorite bands of all time. Flawless is my favorite album.
Oh, yeah.
Like it, and I still listen to it. Like the music in Christianity is probably my favorite thing and always was. So
there's some good music.
Yeah. There's some good, inspiring, beautiful music out there.
The same song I used to love, let's just even say 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
I listen to it now. I loved them at both eras. I get something different out of them. I hear something different out of the music.
You come to my Soulful Awakening morning class and you're going to hear some interesting tunes because it's
a nice mix.
It's an uplifting, funky playlist. And so you'll hear lots of things. But yeah, it can be hard sometimes.
Yeah. Yep. So it sounds like the bottom line is for everybody out there in your journey, wherever you're at, whether you're, and it is trickier to get quiet in this technological age we have going with the phones and everything else. It's tricky to get quiet, but you really do have to figure out what quiet looks like for you and get there.
Without fail, when I'm the most ungrounded, I just need to go be in nature, whether I'm in my kayak, whether I'm taking a hike, whether I'm sitting in the hammock swing in the backyard, watching the other kayaks go by.
The quiet of nature, getting back to that. And I sound like a broken record because I say this in a lot of my episodes, like we got to get back to nature. We got to get back to and just get outside, whatever that means. You may live in a big old city. You can still go outside. You can still go to a park. You can still
go to the park.
Do a little grounding. Yeah.
One of my favorite things to do is I will do yoga in my backyard and watch the river and I have some, I still have little classes out there or whatever. One of my favorite things to do is to lay in Shavasana in my backyard and watch the leaves at the very tops of the trees just blow. There's something so spiritual. There's something so connected to divine in seeing
the trees. I love the trees. I love watching the animals doing stuff. And sometimes I just like clouds and seeing what they look like.
I love water. Love the water, watching the water just flow.
Yep. And hearing the sounds going on all around you that are just nature. They're not man-made.
I'm going to sound really mushy, but I do want to share this thing that my husband tells me. Mike is amazing. And he just has this very interesting perspective on life, but he works outside. He works for utilities. So he's oftentimes out digging in the dirt and, walking around and with his head down. And he said, one of the things that I do when I purposefully during the day stop and look up.
Yeah.
And he'll say, whenever I get down. So now he says to me, he said this to me for years. look up. When I'm stressed, when I'm overwhelmed, when all of the pressures of being in that sandwich generation where you're caring for your parents, and which is we could have a whole other episode on that. He'll say, just look up. And, there's a song called Look Up Child. And it's just this beautiful reminder to look up. And so those are my moments. I look up and I'll see Hawk. I'll look up
and then there'll
I'll
be a hawk and
yeah.
some pretty clouds going by that look like something. Yeah. And there's just you're going to find your own way through this journey. Just keep going. Absolutely. You got to go through. You can't get around it. Listen, I know your time is valuable. And right now I'm feeling super grateful and totally humbled that you chose to hang out with me today. If this podcast resonates with you, could you do me a solid and hit that subscribe or follow button? That's going to help you out because you're never going to miss an episode. And it helps me out because you're never going to miss an episode. And if you have like 30 seconds more, could you leave a 5-star rating and maybe leave a kick-ass review? Thank you so much, and I can't wait to continue our journey on the next episode. Oh, and I can't forget the fine print. The legal jargon. This podcast is presented solely for educational and entertainment purposes. We're just two friends on this journey together, and this podcast is not intended as a substitute for the advice of a physician, professional coach, psychotherapist, or any other qualified professional. You get it. See you next time.